And that's what broke me to say, I want to do private practice. Let's really talk about the clients. Who are you having issues with? Who are you struggling with? I really just noticed that my health, and I was stressed, and I said, it is time to go. Well, these are all the reasons why I want to be an entrepreneur, because I don't want to have to put in PTO time. Interesting story, because I'll be honest with you, Dr. T, I did not want to be a group practice owner. And that alignment is key to having a successful business.
Hey, great day, everybody. Welcome to another podcast episode. We'll be highlighting epic therapists across the country and doing a mental health awareness month. Our mental health awareness month is not like a regular one where we're going to be talking about how to find a therapist, but instead we have went and found the therapist for you, because we know that we talk to psychology grad students, even high school students who are interested in the mental health field, but also we talk to a lot of therapists who are already in the field of psychology, already licensed, and they want to diversify their income. And so we bring therapists on to talk about their journey through becoming a mental health provider. And then most importantly, we talk about what they're doing right now to not just make an impact, but also create and design a lifestyle full of abundance. And so I'm going to bring on our current interview today. Her name is Tanika. Now, I actually have been connected with her for a while behind the scenes, but the first time that we met in person was actually at an in-person event that we hosted in Las Vegas. And so I'm really excited to connect with her, have a conversation out loud. And so welcome to the podcast, Tanika.
Hi.
So where are you tuning in from? And I always like for us to introduce you with the licensure type and acronyms, because a lot of people don't understand that there are so many state by state. So take us away.
Absolutely. So I'm Tanika Barber, known around these streets as the Energy Healer. I am in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I'm also licensed in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. But my licensure is a licensed clinical social worker. And so for me, I mean, I do it all with holistic practice and therapy. So I blend the two and integrate them, where I am just servicing clients. Here, we have an office in Charlotte, but virtual for the other states.
Okay. Yeah, we love hearing from different clinicians, because like I said, like I in California have to get used to all the acronyms, but even if from a client's perspective or a student's perspective, I get a lot of questions in my DM, especially on TikTok, saying like, well, what is the difference between this and this? And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Like, Look it up and tell me. I don't know.
They're changing. The LPCs used to be LPCs. Now they're licensed clinical mental health counselors. So it continues to change.
Yeah. So we always take it all the way back in the beginning of the interviews. And so what got you into the mental health field? Like, what came up as to point the direction? Like, hey, this is for me. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Started when I was younger. I have a cousin who was doing social work or case management back in Buffalo. She worked for this place called, I believe it was like My Brother's Keeper. And I remember her coming home telling stories to my grandparents about what she experienced at work. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. I like that. But I think it goes a little further than just that piece. I've always been that person that can hold secrets, or, validating it, people's feelings, and just really being empathetic to things that they're going through. I was the only child growing up. So I will say that I wanted friends. And so I think because I had a kind, soft spirit and always wanted like that sisterhood, that sister girlfriend relationships, I developed a sense of being able to connect with individuals who maybe already had siblings, but couldn't feel like they could talk to their sibling, or they couldn't talk to their parents. And so a lot of times they will come to me and just kind of pick my brain, and I'll be like, okay, well, let me try to figure this out. I've always been a creative, but I've also been very intuitive. So I really always had like this connection with energy, and just noticing when someone was off, and then reaching out to them and just trying to make them feel heard and seen.
That's good. That's why I say, did you find it, or did it find you? Because I find that with these stories, when we actually reflect back, we're like, oh, it actually found me. Or when we were in grad school, I actually told my friends this when I was in my doctoral program. I'm like, hey, have you realized that like half of the stuff we learned and we probably been doing for all of our life, they just put a name to it and gave us a structure, and then they gave us like a couple of missing pieces and made it sound professional. But I've been doing CBT. We've been doing family systems,
Absolutely. I definitely feel like especially when I went into grad school, just really some of the professors talking to me like, who's your target population and things of that nature. And I'm like, I want to work with this individual, but I don't want to work with these individuals. And he challenged me to say, if you're only working with this population, you do know that you're going to see all of those other populations. And so from there, I really just like, okay, this is it. I've actually planted roots where I want to be once I learned how it combines and becomes full circle.
So we have background, and I know one of the bigger questions that we get mostly from students, but I know licensed providers always like to hear people's stories, is what kind of places have you worked at or trained in terms of categorically? Like some people work at hospitals, outpatient juvenile justice schools. What kind of places have you worked before you went into entrepreneurship?
So before that, I would say, I was kind of all over the place. So coming into the field, I started doing parenting classes. I did that for 17 years. So most of those individuals were people who have lost their kids to the system somehow, was court mandated to have to go through parenting classes. And I think that piece came from wanting to do what my cousin did, right? And so I worked in foster care. I was for 5 years, I did school-based social work. I worked in residential. I worked in a detention center during my internship. So I've done everything except for the hospital. And then for the very end, I did community mental health. And that's what broke me to say, I want to do private practice. Wait,
so
I can't do that anymore. Community mental health, not my jam.
What was it about it? Because a lot of our therapists work in community mental health.
For me, it was the home visits and being on call 24/7.
Got it. Okay, so you worked in the field.
Yes, that stretched me really, really thin. Always like feeling like I had to take my phone to the bathroom with me. Feeling like, okay, if I get 2 calls, what's the next step? If I got to go to this family and that. And then when I moved to Charlotte, okay, different from Buffalo. We had one highway in Buffalo. It got you everywhere you need to go. Coming to Charlotte, all these highways, and you just cannot connect just going on the street to somewhere. I knew I couldn't do it. So I did happily accept it. In my last part of being in community health was a supervisor position. But even then, I'm still on call because my staff was on call. And so when they didn't know anything or they needed help with some stuff, they had to reach out to me. And I knew I needed to make a change for me.
Can you speak to that for a second? Because like at the time of this recording, we're actually doing a boot camp, but we're just also on social media and through our emails. We're talking more about the aspect of clinical supervision. I know it's different when you are W-2 versus when you choose to do a contractual agreement, even compared to when you have your group practice. Those are all 3 different roles. But I find that especially with group practice owners who kind of like bit off a little bit too fast, more than they can chew, especially when getting interns, because it may be low overhead. They don't realize how much responsibility you take on as a clinical supervisor. So can you speak about some of the things or lessons that you learned when being a clinical supervisor, if someone were listening and saying like, hey, that's something I want to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So in my practice, we are group practice. And so I have some therapists that are working towards their full licensure. And so even then, I'm still responsible for them reaching out when they have issues or concerns or just needing some guidance or additional support and guidance with their clients. And so I try to utilize that supervision hour, but we know that sometimes questions pop up after. I do believe the importance of setting boundaries and having clear expectations. So if you're providing them with a contract as their clinical supervisor, kind of outlining it, but also understanding you kind of need to be on call. They have you for that purpose, but really structuring your time with them when you're in your clinical supervision hour, I think is the key piece. Coming in, it's just not, let's shoot in the breeze. How was your day? How was your work week? Let's really talk about the clients. Who are you having issues with? Who are you struggling with? Who needs to transition off your caseload? Who needs a higher level of care? Those are the conversations that should be taking place during that structured time.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you're highlighting boundary structure. And I'm even thinking about when you said, like, I had to take my phone to the bathroom. I even think about being an entrepreneur. If you don't create boundaries, technically that's what you're doing. The only difference is you're telling yourself you need to do that, even though we used to complain about it at our job. And you want to be very careful about what habits you choose to take into your world compared to the habits that you were trying to run away from and like, give up. And so you've worked in a wide range of places. When did you choose to go into entrepreneurship, and like, what was that decision process like for you?
Ooh, child. I would say I am someone, when you tell me I can't do something, I have to show you. So working at a particular agency here in Charlotte, as I was on higher leadership, me and the owner just did not see eye to eye. We just non-licensed person telling someone with a license what they should and could do, or having me sign things that I wasn't comfortable signing with my credentials. I didn't feel comfortable with that. And I kept saying, but this is a job and this is some steady income, and I'm, my health insurance and all of the things we think we are very concerned about when we're looking to leave a 9-to-5. I really just noticed that my health, I was stressed. And I said, it is time to go. And so I kind of behind the scenes started just kind of doing a clinical supervision on the side for some staff and or other people who was looking for clinical supervision. And then I slowly started taking on clients at night. And I'm like, okay, this is good. And I kind of said to myself, you just got to do it, because, if not, you're going to stay stuck and think that you can't do entrepreneurship because you don't have the insurance coming from the job, or you don't have PTO coming from the job. Well, these are all the reasons why I want to be an entrepreneur, because I don't want to have to put in PTO time. Exactly. I want to be able to just go ahead and say, clients, I'm out this week because I'm going to the Bahamas or what have you. And so I took that time and I took the leap of faith in June. I want to say it's June 2021. Is when I took the leap of faith and completely left. I was doing a little bit. I kind of opened my business in 2020, but 2021 is when I was fully in my business.
Okay. So this is I love the journey, because a lot of people don't know transitional periods. They usually hear the beginning and the end, and they don't hear the ups and or downs. I call them learning lessons, not mistakes, because we should be learning from everything so we can grow. But I find that a lot of therapists, sometimes the reason why we may feel defeated even in business, if it's not progressing in the way that we would like, is because, one, we're not being intentional. Like you definitely were very intentional. Despite how it started, like, I can't do this. Bet. Like, despite how it started, you still set up things that worked for you. And there's also a sacrificial season. I just want to make that very clear for the listeners and viewers. There's going to be sacrifices that are made. We all have different roles, being single, married, relationship, school, whatever the case may be. You're going to give up something for a swap of something else at a particular level. Absolutely. And I like that you allowed yourself to, I'm going to say, dip your toes in the water first, versus nowadays watching the internet and just like jumping cold turkey. Granted, people should do it scared, because we talk ourselves out of things. But at the same time, you do want to make sure that you even want to be an entrepreneur. Because that phrase within itself, I think that this day and age, people think that everybody should be an entrepreneur and can be. And not everybody has the skill set, willpower, nor time management skills to actually not be told what to do and be able to pay for their own medical insurance. Because see, that's to me is where the fear comes in. Yes. Are you scared that you can't pay for it? Or are you scared that you ain't gonna do the work to pay for it? Like, those are two different
things. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you went into private practice. Who were you working with when you first started your private practice? And did that audience like shift over time?
So yes, it is. So when I started out, I was primarily working with individuals with personality disorder and mood disorders. You
started off with a bang.
I'm like, wait a minute. And that's how I felt by the end of the year. No, can't do it. And no, it had ran its course. I love that aspect. And that does not mean that if someone now starts to develop some things that I'm going to push them off my caseload. That is not what that means. What it is that I don't want 25 clients that present in that way for me. And I had to have a come to Jesus moment with myself of how I was stretching myself thin for individuals with certain diagnoses that required a lot of attention, no matter how much boundary settings you put into place. It was just there, whether it was the emails or the phone calls or the messages in simple practice, like all of the things. So so currently right now I work with BIPOC women who are dealing with anxiety, trauma, life transitions, depression, just really helping merge self-care, wholeness, confidence into their therapeutic setting.
Nice. I love hearing the evolution. And then you said solo practice, then you said group practice. So when did you go into groups? Tell us that story.
Ooh, so that is an interesting story because I'll be honest with you, Dr. Tanika, I did not want to be a group practice owner. I did not.
It just fell in your lap, huh? Like
it really did. And so as I mentioned, working at that particular community mental health program, when I decided to leave in June, the ladies that I supervised left by July 15th. And they were like, hey, what you got over there? And I'm like, I got nothing. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing over here. And I basically told them, if you are able to trust the process and watch me kind of learn this, and you're patient with me, we can do this. And so I literally started by myself in 2020, April 2020. June 21 is when I left. They came over in July, and it went from me to 5 of us total. And then it grew to 7 of us. And I was like, this is crazy. It's a beautiful blessing. Let me say that. But what I've learned during that process, I was not very prepared to shift between being their supervisor in a different setting to being a practice owner. I totally feel like that looks different. Leadership is different roles. Yeah. And I will be honest, and this is being fully transparent. I've said this to them. I felt like having those relationships come so quickly, it crippled me as a business owner. Because I was making a lot of choices and decisions based on our previous relationship and not based as an owner. And I needed to shift that outlook.
Yeah, that's super good, because I never thought about it in that context. I know a lot of people in our community have not had that. They typically are hiring from the outside in, but it resonates with me because that's how I started as well. I was lucky, at least with the first person, and then the second person who came later, they were very organized. So I guess part of my leadership brain was on, but not to the point where I was fully aware of it, that if I did hire the wrong person, it might impact me later. But I do want to highlight, because this is what we've been talking about in the premium therapist newsletter thing that I've been sending out every Thursday, is, do you know the difference between being a clinical supervisor and a group practice owner? Because when you're a group practice owner, you're actually a managing owner and a supervisor. And if you choose to do licensed providers, it doesn't mean that you're not supervising. You may have consultation sessions versus calling it supervision, but you're still supervising their work. You're still making sure they do their billable hours, just like somebody's looking over you at a job. And I just find it so fascinating that when therapists do know that they're building a group practice, unlike the way that maybe me and you got into it, where people found us and we were like, all right, we down, we'll try, come with me on a journey, which is a dope way to start, by the way, doing it scared, that you intentionally sit down and know you're starting a group practice, and then you intentionally choose not to build out a structure. To me, that's more dangerous with your license, and not just your license, with the future likelihood of somebody else practicing in the best way, like when they leave you at some point, if they choose to leave. And so I'm glad that you highlighted that, just showing that nobody's perfect. But again, going back to what I said earlier, some people see the beginning and they see the end, and they don't see the middle, and they don't see all the rough patches, maybe with the first 2 interns that you had before you got to 5, 6, 7, 8.
Right.
Yeah,
so, it definitely was bittersweet. We're in the process of transitioning too, because trying to find people who are aligned with you is the goal, and that alignment is key to having a successful business. So when someone is just not quite aligned, it has a negative effect on what we bring in, the clients we see, how I'm pivoting and moving, if I'm getting a lot of backlash, so having to restructure, and it's okay to do that. It's okay to kind of realign sometimes.
Yeah. Question, just because you do serve students, and we rarely get the opportunity to talk to therapists about this, but I mean, this is going to serve those who want to supervise, have a group practice, and honestly, for those current students.
Mm-hmm.
We are currently behind the scenes talking about the culture of therapists right now. And I'm gonna give her a shout out, Ashley. One of our clients in one of our programs had said, "Hey, what's going on with these DoorDash therapists?" And we were like, "What?
What's that? Tell me more."
I said, "Hey," when she explained it, I said, "Hey, can I use that?" I said, "You can trademark and do whatever you want to do." I said, "But can I use it in a teaching component?" And I didn't use it about 5 times already, but I give her credit where credit is due. But where the conversation led is, I graduated college or grad school, my doctoral program in 2009. Even before then, private practice was like, "Oh, don't worry about that right now. It was like 20 years later, blah, 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 blah." That was the professor's mindset. But also what was coming down the pipeline before all these state changes, per se, W-9 versus W-2, is expect to get a 60-40 split. And or private practice, you can get paid $100 versus $30 or $40, right? And I don't think that much has changed, because not a lot of grad schools talk about private practice the way that we would probably want to educate graduating students. So I'm just curious, what is the culture of the clinicians that you're seeing that come out of school in terms of their desire to work? Because that's what she meant by the DoorDash therapist. We're starting to notice a trend with, I don't want to do all that because it's a private practice, not realizing you're still in training or you're still in the beginning.
Absolutely. And it's basically, I'm always trying to get you prepared, right? So the unique thing of working with me or coming to, do your internship, it's not just filing. I'm not just having you push papers and make copies and just do some intake phone calls. No, I'm really putting you in the trenches if your school allows it. So some schools here allow them to have to be in session with their own clients, right? But one of the other unique things is I always ask them when I'm doing an interview with them prior to me accepting them for the internship is, what is your goal in the next 2 to 3 years or even 5 years? And majority of them all say that they want to do private practice. And I challenge that. What does that look like for them? So that's kind of like a homework assignment for them. And some of the expectations there, what they think is just not, it's not realistic. And so when you talk about the fees or the rates or setting your rates and fees, they really come out of school feeling as if they are supposed to be making this 100K.
It's the entitlement. Yeah.
I'm not saying you cannot. You can, if, again, like you said earlier, if you're gonna put the work in. You're not just going to get it. You got to learn how to marketing. You got to be out there. You have to actually be someone who somebody wants to see. A lot of our clients are word of mouth. That just attests to the work that I am doing or other clinicians that work with me are doing. We do marketing, but a lot of it is from word of mouth. And so when you're talking about some other places that may pay $30 or 50-50 split or a 60-40 split or the $100, I want them to really I challenge them, well, what are you doing in session that deserves that $100 or that full session rate? Tell me what is setting you apart from me, you, and somebody else down the street. And so it challenges them to really go into themselves and look at what I am bringing to the table, how I am meeting the needs of the clients. And then it also has them structure who is your targeted population. Because again, I told you I started with personality disorders and mood disorder clients. No. And so, we really have those types of conversations, which is not talked about during grad school.
Right. And I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate when group practice owners and supervisors, I'm gonna say, especially those who just supervise, like they have contractual agreements or they're practicum professors or training directors at school, to carve out time to actually just introduce the conversation and introduce dreaming big, but also realistic expectations of where you need to start. Because when you were talking, the word that popped into, I think I said it, is like entitlement, and entitlement not in a bad way, because you can make 100K. Like I want you to make double that, but at the same time, there's a reason as to why our licensing board makes us get hours. It wants us to master skill sets, and we're never done because the world is forever evolving. And so are people with how they see mental health. I mean, we do telehealth, for goodness sakes, after we were told we couldn't, before 2020, if you were in practice back then. And so because our world is forever evolving, I just want the students and pre-licensed people who are listening to know that, one, you can ask people questions. Don't be afraid to ask people questions about what private practice looks like. But keep in mind that depending on who you work for or who you're connected with, they may share with you a general journey, or they may share with you, if they're like a friend or really want to coach you through it, or they're a coach, they may share specific steps. But always know there are always specific steps, just like there were steps for you to get licensed. You just didn't show up and say, I want to take the board exam. No, you need to get 3,000 plus hours this way. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes we detach from that. Yeah, like you ain't an expert in business just because you went and got a license. Like, those don't equate. All right, so what else do you do? Because I know that you went to one of our live events. So let's talk about that. Like, what was it like to be in the room, mastermind, and what other events you got going on?
It was a beautiful experience. So it was the VIP experience in Vegas, September of last year. And so I remember, Dr. Keezy, you said, 90 days, are you going to be able to launch this? I said, nope. I'm not going to be able to do it in 90 days. It was great to be in the room. And it was myself and 2 other women. And that one-on-one, like, I'm going to say attention that we got from you, to be able to pick your brain, to tap into, what you've been doing and all of the things that you can pour into us. I really took it. Like, you gave us homework. I remember going back up to the room. I'm like, no, I'm not going out. I'm in the room trying to get my stuff done. Okay. Everybody else was doing everything else. Tanika was in the bed, sitting out there, mapping it out. And I remember you saying you need to create a beta, right? And I was like, what's that? Because I didn't know what a beta was. I don't know everything. And so I remember I gave my beta a name, and I said, I'm going to reach out to this person. I would like for you to know we have successfully completed the Beyond the Couch with my beta. So it didn't take 90 days. If I saw you in September, I launched it in October.
Oh my gosh.
She left her 9 to 5 in February and is fully functioning as a private practice owner.
Nice,
so thank you for giving me that gentle push in my back. Just knowing that traditional talk therapy doesn't just have, you don't have to stop there with the one-on-one. Mm-hmm. And so being able to go to the VIP experience and learn other streams of income, hear other people's streams of income that they were looking to do, was an amazing experience to kind of sit in there. It poured into me, not just from my brain thinking of the Beyond the Couch that I want to do, but other avenues and arenas that I can tap in down the road if I choose to. Right now, we need to get this one on and going, but that was just an amazing experience to have the opportunity to be in a room with you.
Nice. And it was something key that you had said in terms of like, but it didn't even take me that long. And in these interviews and also talking to just other therapists, entrepreneurs, we get in our mind that something is going to take a certain amount of time. And then we may end up talking ourselves out of doing it because we may not like that timeline, not realizing that you actually, if you get focused, because that was the other key point, you came in and the way we structured it is you will hear other things, but I need you to do the things to your thing. And I need you to draw out the map to your thing. I need you to ask questions to your thing, not somebody else's thing. Right. Then it gets you primed. But also because your brain is super focused, I'm gonna say similar to school, you're more focused on finishing because you can't go any other way or it's gonna take you another year. And I just want therapists to hear that you can create that space for you. And I know that everybody has a capacity of attention that's different, but you have to learn as an entrepreneur how to create that box for you, even if you're not at a live event or even after the live event, to finish it. And you will probably finish it a lot faster than you think.
Yeah, I stayed in that workburk you gave us. I stayed in the workbook. I went back to thinking about just really structuring out the framework. I think that was key when you talked about understanding your framework. That centers you and that brings you back to where you want to go. And so having that time to just kind of sit in with it. I do a lot of meditation and sitting still. And so practicing that and just really doing a lot of praying. It really was an amazing, like I said, amazing experience. And to see somebody pour into their dreams and opening up their own private practice and just not feel like she couldn't do it. And then just offering her the support, just like all of the support that I get. You got to invest. One of the things that I've learned, you have to invest. You got to invest in yourself, invest in your journey, because you can't be the only person who knows everything. You have to reach out to other people to just kind of pour into you.
Yeah. And I want to speak to that as well. Not even just the live event, but also the connection that I saw in the room. Because that group, it's been 2 VIP experiences where it's been less than 8 people. And one of the things that I tell our community is whether you buy a ticket or not, there's a certain minimum that we need to have a mastermind experience. But when we're there, that just means that whoever's there is going to get more attention. But one of the things I love is that you all took what we discussed to another level in terms of connecting even outside of the conversations that we were having. Because just for those of you who don't even know what a VIP experience is, it is something where we curate a sample of a mastermind. It is a mastermind, but typically the people who get that are people in our mastermind. But we know that a lot of therapists don't even know what masterminds is. I mean, I didn't until I walked into a building and they said, this is what you're in. And I'm like, what the hell is this? You know, it looked like just a lot of people. And so it's the power of different people coming together, growing their business and themselves, but also pouring into other people because the process gets expedited. And so we did a lot of activities and they were able to build out their process. But one of the beautiful things that comes out of this is new collegial relationships, new friendships. People stay connected. And because a lot of the therapists, at least I don't think I only have one person in Vegas that lived there, everybody else is coming in. So it kind of like forces you, if you desire, to connect with those people even outside of the room, or go to dinner before we meet, or go to lunch together. And I just loved that it was definitely clear how y'all were connecting even outside of the room.
And I actually seen Whitney after that. We've had dinner. Yeah, we have met outside. A couple of months ago, we met up and had dinner or lunch, late lunch that ran into dinner, something like that. So yeah, definitely staying connected. Like I said, I love to have those spaces where you can connect with people. It doesn't have to be like cliquey or, you know, I don't want to share my information. I don't really like those spaces. And that definitely wasn't that space. We're have you thought about this? Won't you try this? We were definitely throwing out different things to help pour into each other.
Yeah. And I must tell y'all, all 3 of y'all, because I know I talked to y'all individually, all 3 of y'all did y'all betas. So the other person, she did her beta and got her first like high paying client as well. So, and it happened, I think it happened like within 30 to 45 days after she left. She started doing like YouTube videos, trying to test that out with the camera that she saw me record in my car. It was dope. I was like, see,
y'all want that camera now. I'm gonna have to wait for that now. I'm gonna have to wait. I'm gonna have to say that one up a little bit, but I want that camera.
Yeah. So we've heard about the journey. We've heard about the streams of income. Now, one way that we wrap these up, because we talked about how you got into the field. Now, if you were to have spoken to yourself, if you have the opportunity to do a time rewind and you can talk to yourself in that first year of entrepreneurship, like making the decision, what are some things that you would share with yourself, not knowing how you about to glow up later, that can keep her head like held high, because it's gonna get hard?
I would say to that version of myself to really just kind of like trust your path. You're not doing too much, even when everybody else say you're doing too much and you need to slow down, because I definitely hear that. So I would tell her you don't need to. Don't be afraid to ask for help, to invest in your growth and stretch yourself. You'll never know if you can do something successfully if you don't try it. But most importantly, to stay rooted in your reason to why. Lean in your community, you know, your girlfriends or your colleagues, and make sure you're not looking for permission, acceptance, or approval from anyone.
That's good. Man, y'all be hitting these messages right on time. Because we have so many, we have different variations of people who catch this, these podcasts. And I know that the way that we're doing it, when most people hear about mental health awareness, they're like, oh, what type of therapy can I get? Like, what do I need to be aware of in the mental health field with symptomology? And it's like, nobody sheds a light on the actual healers that are doing the work. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we made our mission, just in our community in general, like just highlighting that there is so much diversification in the field, whether it be a licensure type, population you serve, different streams of income you can have, and then also being able to live out your life the way that you desire. Actually, that does bring me to one last question. What do you do for fun so that these therapists can get outside? Because, self-care is real.
I can't tell them to shop, but
just in a responsible way.
Yes, in a very responsible manner. No, what I do for fun, I like to be around my kids and my grandkids. When I see them, my grandkids kind of live far. So when I do get to visit them, I love to spend some time with them. But other than that, I am a girly girl, though I don't have my nails on right now, because that is after this call with you. I'm going to get my nails done. I am a spa girly. I pour into myself with massages and spa, facials, all of the things. So I am definitely, as a healer, and again, tapping into all that energy work that I do, I have to pour back into myself, and that's how I fill myself up.
Man, that might needs to be. Well, I guess it matches the overflow, like overthinking the overflow, because our other podcast, that's how it ended. That was the message that she would give to her previous self. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't even pour from a half full cup. And Absolutely. So, thank you so much. I know that we're gonna link up all your information on the bottom. I want everybody, she's going to share how you can find her, but make sure that you head over to her platforms or her website, give her a shout out, get into her DM, let her know what was your biggest takeaway, also on the bottom of this podcast. But how can they find you to stay connected and to reach out?
Yes, you can stay connected to me on social media through Instagram and Facebook at The Energy Healer, which is the INNERG Healer. That's your energy. Or you can follow us on our therapy platform at MBS Therapeutics, PLLC on Instagram and Facebook.
I love it. So y'all go over there, show her some love. And we would love to do more of these interviews, of course, to bring more diversification and see what therapists are doing in the field. Definitely know that you've enjoyed this podcast episode in our Mental Health Awareness Month. And I will talk to y'all in the next episode. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on all the platforms, YouTube and on Apple. And I will see y'all in the next episode. Bye.